Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to be getting started shortly. I'm just going to give everyone another 20 seconds to join. We have a large group this morning, so I just want to wait for everyone to flow through. Okay, I am going to kick off. Hi everyone, welcome to today's ChatGPT Team 102 webinar, Leveraging AI to Do Your Best Work. My name is Lois and I am your host today. This session is a follow-on from last week's 101, where we discussed how you can use ChatGPT as a super assistant to help you with everyday work tasks. In today's session, I want to take this one step further. ChatGPT is incredibly powerful, and so I now want you to think about how you can use ChatGPT to do better work. So that might be new tasks, new projects, or even learn a new skill. Today's learning objectives are using data analysis within ChatGPT to reduce manual workload. I'll spend about 15 minutes here. And then the piece I know you're all really excited about. In the last 25 minutes, I'm going to guide you through the build of a GPT to show you how you can be more productive and automate workflows. Like 101, I am joined by several of my OpenAI colleagues who will be moderating from the Q&A feature, which you can find directly at the bottom of the screen. And of course, most importantly, this session is being recorded, and you will receive a recording tomorrow. Okay, I am going to jump in and set the scene for today's demo. This is a hypothetical story and scenario, and it is for demo purposes, but I really want to highlight how I can use ChatGPT to help me understand and embark on a new task. So let's imagine that I've taken a new position at my company and I've been put in charge of overseeing the rollout of a new HR tool. I have very relevant experience, but I've never been a formal project manager, or maybe I've just never done a task like this before, and I need help embarking on this new task. Pre-ChatGPT, or in a world where AI doesn't exist, I would need to ask my more experienced colleagues for support. I might need to do some formal training, and it's going to take me longer to get started. But now in a world with AI and specifically ChatGPT, I can actually use ChatGPT as a starting point to help me embark on developing new tasks, new skills, and starting new projects. And this is really what I mean when I say that we can now leverage AI to do our best work yet. What I'm going to do is I am going to jump into ChatGPT and I'm going to provide ChatGPT with that scenario that I just told you. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I'm going to add in my prompt. And if you remember from last week, a prompt is comprised of three things, which is context, role, and expectation. So here we are giving the context and identifying who we are and what we're trying to do. I've identified that I need to project manage the rollout of a new HR tool, and I'm being explicit about my expectation. I'm saying to ChatGPT that I want a high-level plan to help me kick off this project. I'm going to send this across and let's see what we get back. I'm expecting some kind of high-level week-by-week plan that gives me some suggestions for how I should be managing this project. And we can see right now that is exactly what ChatGPT is doing. I've got a high-level project plan that's taking me through the weeks step by steps and identifying activities, key deliverables. And if we scroll down further, we should also have an understanding of roles and responsibilities because that is what I asked in the prompt. So this is a great starting point with ChatGPT, but as you may notice, it's pretty generic and it's not specific to me and how my company runs a project. So to improve this workflow, I'm going to upload our company project management guidelines, which is a 28-page PDF. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT to enhance the plan it has just provided me. But based on this new knowledge, it's going to give me a better plan that is more specific to my business. And so top tip, again, anytime you give ChatGPT more context, you upload additional documentation that's about you and your business, the more relevant the return in response. Let's add in my next prompt. In this prompt, I am asking ChatGPT, can you update the above table and include the most important tasks from each section of the attached document to help me create a better plan that adheres to our company framework? And again, using the paperclip icon, I'm going to upload that PDF. So that's the project management appendix. And essentially, I'm asking ChatGPT to read this document and to improve the plan. Okay, so now we have an improved plan. You can see ChatGPT has said, here's an updated table with the additional tasks and responsibilities based on the information provided in the document. Again, I'm going to need to cross-reference that document briefly, just as human in the loop. I want to check that it's correct. But what I'm seeing now is a plan that has been augmented with something that's specific to my business and how my business runs projects. This is really helpful, but obviously it's all stuck in this chat window. So I want to extract this information to help me get started. What I can actually do, and I love this capability, is I can ask ChatGPT to gather all of that information that it's just provided to me in a downloadable CSV so that I have a working document to begin tracking project activities. It's very easy to do. All I need to do is jump in and ask ChatGPT to actually provide that downloadable CSV. Now, what's happening here is ChatGPT is leveraging the data analysis capabilities. I always recommend that you give this capability 20 to 30 seconds to work. It's not going to be instant. It needs to actually create that document. So do just bear in mind that you'll need to wait 10, 20 seconds. And there we have a downloadable link. So if we click on that, that's going to go to my downloads. And if we jump over here, this is what the download is going to look like. And so there we have the project, which is step by step. We have week, dates, milestones, and responsibilities. And what I can do is jump in and start editing. And this is going to be really, really helpful to get started on a project plan. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to come back to ChatGPT. And I'm going to dig into data analysis more deeply. What I really like about this capability is that I am able to do multiple analysis with multiple files. So in 101, we looked at working with a single file, but now I'm going to ask ChatGPT to help me compare two data sets. In this scenario, let's imagine I want to explore and understand how my company allocates budget across departments for specific projects. Specifically, in my instance, I want to understand more about HR budget allocation. Now, this is really important, and I don't think I stress this enough in 101. Whenever you are using ChatGPT to help you analyze data, we strongly encourage that you have an understanding of the data that you're working with and that you always adopt that human in the loop mindset. I'd recommend looking at the spreadsheets or the files that you're working with, and then always checking ChatGPT's output. So just as an example, I want to show you the raw data that I have that I'm going to upload into ChatGPT. What we have is a simple spreadsheet. You can see the department, the project ID, the budget, and we have this data across 2 years. So I should be checking that data first, understanding it before uploading it into ChatGPT. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask ChatGPT, can you please analyze these 2 files and outline any key highlights and notable trends? Again, attaching those 2 documents. And we're going to send that across. Now, if you remember from last week, what we see here, when I click on Analyze, ChatGPT is writing Python code in a sandbox to execute the request and generate analysis. What's important about this is this goes beyond what we can do in a simple spreadsheet. If I scroll down, in fact, it hasn't finished analyzing, so I will just come back up here and show you again that the two data sets have been turned into interactive tables, and at any point we can expand those tables and take a look at the data. Let's scroll down and let's see if we get any trends back. It's taking a little bit of time today, so please bear with me. Okay, so we now have a departmental budget comparison, which we can investigate. So ChatGPT has created this unprompted, but this is very interesting. I can actually have a look at the department, the budget, the actual spend, the difference. So this is really helpful. There's some extra calculations here that I didn't ask for, but underneath that is really rich written text, which is giving me clear insights into what is happening in these 2 data sets. And straight away, because I was specific about the HR department, we can see that the budget in both years was 28,000. We can see the actual spend increased, and we can see that there was overspend in 2023. So that gives me an understanding of maybe where I'm coming into in 2024, and I'm probably going to have to be conscious of my spend specifically in this project. What I love about data analysis, and especially this updated version, is that ChatGPT will give me suggested prompts. So I can start to engage in a conversation and extract more information simply by clicking on these suggestions. But in this scenario, what I actually want is 2 bar charts, and I want the bar charts to basically compare actual spend for each department in 2022 and 2023. So we'll send across that prompt. We'll see what ChatGPT gets for us. So it's taking a little bit of time today, please bear with me. But there we have it. We have two interactive charts outlining budget against actual spend in 2022 and 2023. And so this is what I was looking for. If we expand this view, we can very much see the distribution across departments, which is really helpful. And this is an AI generated graph, which means that it didn't exist in the world before we added in these two files into ChatGPT. And what I love is I can easily extract these files and I can send them on, or I can add them to a presentation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up this workflow and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to use the information it has to pull together a project kickoff email. This email is going to be sent out to key stakeholders, explaining the project plan and identifying information ahead of time. In my opinion, I use ChatGPT all the time for email creation, and it's one of my favorite use cases. Again, really, really good for a first draft, and I can edit it to suit my needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a prompt and ask ChatGPT to do exactly that. Okay, great. So we have an email which identifies what we're doing and the project. It's pulled in a condensed version of the table it helped me to create using that project management appendix. It's also called out a piece around the budget as well. And so what I can do is I can use this email, I can edit it, and I can get that project kickoff up and running. Now, what I've done in the last 15 minutes is showed you in a very condensed way how to use ChatGPT to flex into a new task or skill. In the same way that you would have previously asked a colleague or a coach to guide you through this process, you can now use ChatGPT. Okay, I'm going to move on from data analysis and I am going to move in to talk about GPTs. So staying with the same project management theme, let's imagine we want to take my project management skills to the next level. Now what I want to do is I want to show you how you can build a GPT to make you more productive and to automate a repeatable task. As a quick refresher, custom GPTs can be thought of as specialized assistants that are powered with knowledge and instructions. I strongly recommend that when you start making GPTs, you start with a simple task first. GPTs can be really helpful with specific, repeatable tasks. I want to show you how you can easily build one because you don't need a technical background and you don't need to understand coding to be able to create one. What we're going to do first is we're going to come into Explore GPTs. You can see here, and I covered this in 101, that the GPTs that I use on a daily basis, I have pinned to my sidebar. The GPT store is very similar to an app store. This is where I can search for the name of a GPT, or I can search along the top here for specific GPT topics. Now, again, your workspace may look different to mine. Depending on your settings, you might have access to all GPTs, or you might only see the GPTs that have been shared to your team workspace. Coming back up, again, My GPTs is going to take you to the GPTs that you have built. But to create one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Create. When I click on Create, that takes me to this view here. Okay, so I want to just give you a little bit more information about what I'm trying to do. So I want to create a GPT to act as my project management communicator. As you all know, just from the data analysis demos, I am overseeing the implementation of a new HR tool. And one of these specific and repeatable tasks that I have to do every week is I have to formulate an email to keep all the stakeholders up to date on how the project is tracking. Again, if we think about this world where ChatGPT doesn't exist, we have to manually collect those insights and we have to manually create that email every week. Of course, you can create a Word template and you can fill it out. But what I'm trying to show you in this example is how we automate it and how we use AI to do a lot of that grunt work. So I'm going to create this GPT to help me do just that. First of all, I want to talk about the difference between the Create and the Configure tab. The Create tab is really great if you have never configured a GPT before and you're not quite sure how to build one and you want some inspiration. You can come directly into the GPT builder and you can engage in a conversation. And the GPT builder is going to ask you questions to try and understand what the task is and what you're trying to do. And what's very clever about the GPT builder is it will take your responses and it will then populate the configure tab. So the create tab is a really great place to start if you are a beginner. For me personally, I like the configure tab because it gives me a high level of control. And I really want to teach you best practices for how to configure a GPT so you're not solely reliant on asking the GPT questions. Let's jump into configure and I'm going to take you through this step by step. So first of all, we need to give the GPT a name. I'm going to call this GPT the project management communicator. And of course, I'm going to add in a description. The description is really important. Do not underestimate the value of a description because the description is what the user sees when they engage in a conversation with a GPT. So of course, if you're creating a GPT for your team workspace and you want to share your GPT with your colleagues, this description is what your colleagues will see if they start using the GPT. So here we're going to add in a description. And one thing to note is that you will see that description populate over here on the right-hand side. In this example, we're saying this GPT reviews written project updates and converts them into a weekly email using the company communication template. Think of this GPT as your project management communicator. Now that we've added in a description and we've thought about what this GPT is, we're now going to jump in and update the instructions. The instructions are the most important part of a GPT. 9 times out of 10, when I'm working with a customer or a user, I notice that the instructions are not clear, they're not concise enough, and they're not explicit about the steps the GPT needs to take to effectively complete the task. So I'm going to give you some top tips, and I'm going to walk you through the instructions step by step. And I would encourage you after today's session to try and build your first GPT and to share that GPT with someone in your workspace. Let's expand this GPT. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to add in a section, and I'm calling this section the overview. Think about the overview as a statement of intent. It's very similar to the description. It's a summary of the task in hand. Again, here we are saying that the GPT is a project management communicator. A user is going to bring written updates to the GPT. The GPT is going to review these updates, and based on a template that we also upload into the knowledge, the GPT is going to spit out a nice formal email that we can use every week to keep the project team updated. The next thing we want to think about is, and if we go back to the prompt engineering session from last week, we want to be really clear and concise about our expectations and what's involved in the task. So the next key item or element to your instructions is to add a section called What You Do. You can also title this instructions, whatever works for you. But here we are step by step identifying every part of the task. And I'm going to number these as well. So number 1, a user will send you a weekly written update from the project team. Number 2, confirm that the user has sent all of the updates before you move on to step 3. Step 3, you will use the comms template as a guide and populate the updates in the email format which has been added to your knowledge. Number 4, provide the user with an email they can easily copy and paste into Gmail. Again, if we go back to some of the messaging from last week, I really want you to think about talking to ChatGPT like you would a colleague, so like you would a super assistant. You really need to spell out what you want this assistant to do so that it can do the task that's being asked of it. Great. The final step, and really important, we want to add in some guidelines. Guidelines can be included to ensure that the model knows what additional parameters it should focus on. For example, I want this particular GPT to only draw on information that's been provided in the knowledge section. And I also want the GPT to redirect a user to the project management team if it doesn't know the answer to a question. That's why the third section is a section called guidelines. Again, let's number these, and I'm going to take you through them. We're adding in 2 guidelines. The first is accuracy and clarity. We're telling the GPT to ensure that responses are accurate based on the knowledge that we upload and communicated clearly to be understood. Number 2, we're explaining to the model here that if a query falls outside of its knowledge, then it should redirect the user to someone on the project management team. And what I've done here is I've also identified the email address that the user should contact if this GPT can't support them. Okay, to recap, we have an overview, which is a statement of intent. We have a set of instructions and we've labeled it What You Do. And this is a step-by-step that the model can use to execute on the task. And number 3, we're adding in guidelines to ensure that the model understands how to behave and what it should do in the instance that it doesn't know the answer. Now that we have our instructions, let's close that and let's move down to conversation starters. I like to think of conversation starters as pre-loaded prompts. A user can click on a conversation starter and that is going to kick off the chat with the GPT. Conversation starters are also helpful for users to understand the types of questions that they should be asking. So if we come down and add in a conversation starter, I'm going to add in just one. This is a relatively simple GPT. And what I'm saying here is using the email format in your knowledge, can you take the following written updates and create this email for me? Again, if it was a GPT that was doing multiple different things, we could add in several conversation starters. But again, conversation starters are really important if you intend to share your GPT across your team workspace. Let's come down to the knowledge. So I've been talking about the knowledge. I've been talking about uploading this template into the knowledge. And so that is this section here. You can see when I hover over knowledge, it says additional files for this GPT to reference. This is really the section that makes the GPT an expert or a super assistant. When I upload files, I am going to add in a template. And let me show you this template. So this template is how I want all of my emails to be formatted. It took me 5 minutes to create this in Word. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this into the GPT so that it creates a format like this every time. If we come back over to ChatGPT, I'm going to scroll down and I want to talk about capabilities. Capabilities is really the section where you can turbocharge your GPT. For example, if you want a GPT that helps you with research, maybe you want web browsing turned on. You might have a GPT that is designed to analyze a certain data set every week, in which case you'll want to turn code interpreter and data analysis turned on. You might also be creating a marketing support GPT that helps to generate creative images or some kind of brand template, in which case you'll want DALL-E. So again, there's no need to have these turned on, but if you do want your GPT to leverage some of these capabilities, then please make sure they're turned on. Two things, very important and slightly nuanced. If I want to create a profile picture in my GPT, I need to make sure that the DALL-E image generator is turned on. I then come up to this section here, which will create a profile picture, and I will click Use DALL-E. Let's give that a little bit of time. Sometimes, again, with DALL-E, it can take a little bit of time to generate that image. And there we have an image. I don't love this image. I could sit here all day and refresh it until I found one that I like. But the profile picture is really important because that is the circle that you see in your sidebar, in your team interface, that allows you to understand which GPT it is. Scrolling down, I'm now going to turn off image generation. I don't need it. But this is really, really important. Remember in the data analysis demo earlier, I asked ChatGPT to generate a downloadable link as a CSV. If you want your GPT to do this, you will need to turn on the data analysis capability. Whenever we ask ChatGPT for downloads, for links, for documents, it is leveraging the data analysis capability to do that. So I am going to keep that capability turned on in case I ever want a download. Maybe I want a Word doc or something from this GPT. Just very quickly, and I'm not going to spend much time on it today, I want to talk a little bit about actions. Actions are a way to connect your GPT to a third-party system. And if we click on action, this is the view that you will see. So again, this is a way to turbocharge your GPT to get it to connect to other systems to help you complete or automate that task. For example, I have a GPT and it is called Jira Assistant. It is configured with an Atlassian API call, which makes a post request to the Atlassian environment and generates a Jira ticket. That's just one example of how you can connect a GPT into a third-party system. And it's going to be really, really helpful for executing on a single request. So in that example, my Jira Assistant creates tickets for me in my backlog so that I don't have to manually create them every time. To do that, all I would need to do is select the authentication type. I would then need to drop in the specific API schema that's relevant for example, to Atlassian. And then I will also need to test that as well. We do have a GPT Actions cookbook available online. Very easy to locate that on the OpenAI website. So if you are interested in GPTs and actions, please go and discover those cookbooks that are really easy to find online. This GPT does not need an action, so I'm not going to configure one today. And essentially, we have completed this GPT. So we are now at the point where we want to test it. So I'm going to publish it and I'm going to show you how it works. We're really in the last kind of 3 to 4 minutes of the session today. To publish my GPT, I click on Create. Now, what you will notice is that I can directly share this GPT with individuals within my team workspace. All I need to do is type in their email address, and that is going to share the GPT. You can see that this GPT by default is invite only, but I do also have the ability to share my GPT more publicly across my workspace, or even publish it publicly or to the GPT store. So you do have some options, but just know that the GPT is private by default until you share it. I'm just going to publish this GPT for me today. Let's just check that it works. So we're going to click update, and what should happen is that should take me through to the GPT. So we're going to click view GPT. I come back into this interface and I am now engaging in a chat. And you'll also notice that that GPT has appeared in my sidebar. And all I need to do is come back into this section up here in the top left. And to go back in and edit the GPT, all I need to do is click on Edit GPT. I can also hide from the sidebar as well. And to reshare a GPT with a colleague, I just go back into the edit space. Okay, let's actually test this GPT. What I'm going to do now is I am going to add in a series of updates into this prompt. And these are updates that have come from Slack, they've come from email. I've taken some notes throughout the week. Different people have contacted me, they've provided the task ID, and they've given me an update about the project task that they were working on. And so what I'm going to do is we're just going to add in the prompt. Again, I could use that conversation starter, but I forgot to click that. So feel free to use that in your own GPTs. But essentially, I am saying, please go through these notes. I want you to take the information in these notes and I want you to use that template I provided you, and I want you to create that really nice looking email. So let's send this across and let's see how the GPT does. Perfect. So the GPT has done a really great job at reviewing that text that I provided, understanding what's been completed, what's outstanding, and where there are upcoming milestones. And if we go back to this view here, you can see that the GPT has perfectly referenced that template and provided me with an email. And so this GPT has worked successfully. So in less than 25 minutes, I've managed to automate a task that happens in my work week. I am able to now come back to this GPT every time I need to provide a status update or an email for this project, and I know that it is going to reference that template every time. And so this is what I mean when I say that we can now use AI or leverage AI to do our best work. We can use it to be more productive. We can use it to speed up some of the grunt work, and we can take out some of the pain in those admin tasks. Great, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar. I just want to thank you so much for joining 101 and 102. I really hope today's session was helpful. Of course, when we end the webinar today, you will see a survey appear in your browser. I would love it if you could take 5 minutes just to provide some feedback. But again, thank you. And I would encourage you all to jump into your team workspace this week, get building, start sharing with your colleagues. And yeah, good luck. Thank you so much.